Hello everybody, my name is Grin, and this is my beard. What's in my beard besides the snow? Well, I've been thinking about the concept that I brought up a little while ago in one of my other videos, and it kind of died out because nobody really watches my videos, so don't have enough conversation involved. The Mr. Leo Nasty, you are awesome, always giving me something to talk about and whatnot. I appreciate that. However, I kind of want to hear from more people if possible. Not enough people watch my videos to even give me anything to talk about. But so the thing I want to go back to is the whole superpower thing, the whole idea of superpowers. And where this comes from is like not too long ago, some psychologists or whatnot, they started publishing papers or information about this weird thing called aphantasia. If you don't know what aphantasia is, basically it's some people can visualize things inside of their mind. Like if you say, imagine an apple, they can actually see the apple inside of their head, like in the mind's eye. And then there are people who can't. And there's quite a few people who can't. But once they started realizing that that existed, then they started realizing that, you know, there's other things in the brain that some people can do and some people can't do. Excuse me. For instance, kind of aphantasia like, but instead of visual, it's auditory. Some people can have conversations inside of their head, just, you know, two random people, or talk with themselves inside of their head, and all the words and everything, they can hear that inside of their head. And then some people can't. So it's kind of a superpower, right? But which one is a superpower? Is the fact that you can do it a superpower, or the fact that you don't do it a superpower? Because think about it this way, the person who is different from you, like if you can or can't do it, if the other person, they're living their life normally and they have no idea that other people don't think the way they do, but they're able to just function normally. So which one is the superpower? Don't know. It's kind of like they both have their benefits and their drawbacks. But even if they have, you know, deficits or some sort of problem with it, something that makes it more difficult, doesn't mean that they can't do things that the other person can do. It's just they do it differently. So when you think about, you know, some people who have autism or whatnot, maybe that's just it. They've got a lot more of those different things inside of their heads, and some people can deal with it and some people can't. I was watching this video from this guy, this doctor, who was talking about consciousness, and it was really hard to listen to him because he was he would have a lot of pauses, and he was eating an orange, and there was all these sounds of, I don't know, sorry, that kind of bothers me. But he was trying to talk about how he is, you know, comfortable with his life now and whatnot. He's got hundreds of thousands of viewers, so some people, I guess, like that kind of talk, where someone will just have lots of dead air in between his thoughts or her thoughts. And I've been trying to not do that. That's like what I'm really trying to work on, is not having a lot of dead air between my thoughts, so that if I'm talking to somebody, it's not boring. You're not sitting there waiting for what's coming next. It comes out quickly. I need to be able to organize my thoughts fast enough to keep you engaged. That's kind of the reason why I even make these videos, is just to learn how to talk in such a way that there's no time for you to go, I don't want to hear about this, or I'm bored. you've got enough coming at you that you can keep thinking and it can keep you interested. I don't know, it's like Howard Stern or something like that. He always had something to say. Joe Rogan. That's why people watch these people, is because they can continue their thoughts and keep you engaged. It's interesting to listen to them because what they have to say just keeps coming out, and you don't have a point where you're going, why isn't he speaking, or something like that. It's important to have that quickness, what do you want to call it? The snapshot, quick shot, just having quick wit. There we go, quick wit. Having quick wit to keep your conversation rolling, keep it moving. If you stop at any point in time, then that gives the person who's listening to you to think, maybe I don't care about any of this. Because why should you? Why should you care about anything that any of these people say? The only reason why is because you're interested, or it's entertaining. That's the entire point of doing any of these videos on the internet. You're either teaching or entertaining. And even if you're teaching, you should also be entertaining. It's not like teaching should be boring. It shouldn't be boring. It should be entertaining. So when I'm a teacher, so I teach kids English. I have my own school, my own English school in Japan. And that's important to me too. I don't have dead air, dead time in between our conversations, but I do have many students together and they can't all be talking at the same time. And I'm wondering, how do I get this to work so that everybody can have a chance to speak and listen? Because when two kids are talking and I have to listen to them and make sure that they're saying it correctly and give them advice or corrections or whatnot, the other kids are just sitting there waiting. And my students are really patient. They are pretty patient. And I'm also patient with them. So some of them will mess around and whatnot. And I don't get on them about that. As long as they don't, interrupt the other students doing their thing, then, it doesn't bother me. I get it. It can be boring sitting there waiting for your turn. In reality, what they should be doing is listening to see what's being said and to learn what's being said, and then to practice it in their heads. But some people have aphantasia and some people don't, or whatever the auditory version of that is. So people are going to learn differently. Yeah, well, that can be a problem because you don't know. I don't know what's inside of my kids' heads. The only way you can really know or believe the way they are is by their actions. And so there's no reason why I should tell them to stop doing something as long as it's not bothering other people, because everybody learns differently, right? And so this superpower thing, I want to know what is your superpower? I was having a conversation with some of my adult students, and we were talking about empathy. They didn't know what the word empathy really meant, and I was trying to explain. And actually, the student was like, "What's the difference between sympathy and empathy?" And explaining that was a little bit difficult. I mean, if you don't understand English, then explaining it in English is going to be hard to understand, I think. But basically, sympathy is when you can see the difficulty that somebody is having and compassionately give them some measure of help or care. But you don't have the same feeling, or have never had the same feeling. Whereas empathy is, you understand the feeling well and what they're feeling, and so you have a better insight into how to care for that, whatever it is. Maybe is that a good definition of the difference between sympathy and empathy? Sympathy is knowing and doing something by what you know, and empathy is the same thing, but not doing something by what you know, but by how you feel. You feel the same way they do, so that you can more accurately give them the care that they need. And this got on to, like, people who have no empathy, psychopaths and sociopaths. So psychopaths, their brains just are not capable of understanding the feelings of other people. And then sociopaths who can, but have either through trauma or whatever means have removed their care motor. So that even though they might feel what you feel, they just don't care. So is that also kind of like a superpower? So psychopathy is like the first kind of aphantasia type of thing. These are things that are going on inside the brain. And I was thinking it's kind of like a superpower. Now, the reason why I say that is because psychopathic people can do good things. They can be good people. It's not like they're incapable of it. It's just they don't intuitively understand feelings of other people. They have to be told, they have to be taught that these things are good and these things are bad. Otherwise, they don't really know. And it's not like they're not willing to do the right thing or do what's good for other people. It's just they don't understand or don't have the ability to make those connections and be like, oh, okay, well, I probably shouldn't hit little Billy because he's gonna say ouch and it's gonna hurt him. But if at a young age you teach this psychopathic person, this is a bad thing and you shouldn't do it, and there are consequences for it, and they know their consequences, then they won't do it not because they understand the other person's feeling, but because they know it's just not something you should do. And then we got on to thinking about, these are basically like superpowers, and everybody seems to have their own superpower, and you don't know unless you talk about it. Nobody would have known really about aphantasia unless somebody had said, hey, when you think about an apple in your head and you see the whole apple and you eat it and you can taste it, and another person's like, what the heck are you talking about? You're crazy. I'd see an apple in your head, eat it? What? It doesn't make any sense. And then you go, oh, okay, maybe I'm just different. So all of us might have things like that, and we don't know that other people don't have this inside of their head. And one of those things that I realized in myself was I can visualize the motions of things. Like I use an analogy where I was like, I've got a box full of marbles, and it makes it easier if all the marbles are different colors in my head. So in my head, I'm imagining a box full of marbles, and I shake the box, and I can see all the marbles moving and bouncing off each other and how they're going, and then I can visualize that, and then I can stop it, and then I can reverse it, and all the marbles bouncing off each other backwards. They're not really bouncing off. It's really hard to explain, but I can visualize that forward, backward, and it's like how I can see things around me. This is how I can understand how things happen, or I can basically create simulations of things in my head and know all the possible outcomes of that. And I don't know exactly when I started doing that, but I can do that with motion and things, but I can't do that with thoughts and ideas, because they're nebulous. They're not real. They're not physical. But anything physical, I can look around and I can see how things would happen. So if I went into a room where the room is all trashed, I can look around and see how things are, and then I can simulate all these, I don't know, cups being thrown around and how they were hit and which way they moved and how they landed. It's really weird how to explain it. I don't know how to even explain it, but that's something that I can do. So I can walk into a room and I can see, how things happen. I can look at the wall and be like, oh, looks like somebody was using a broom over there and tripped on that box. Because the box is like a little bit tilted, and then when they fell, they put their hands out, but they were holding the broom, so the broom put a hole in the wall over here as they fell, and I can see that kind of stuff, and I can simulate that in my head. It's weird, but it's not really all that useful, is it? What could I use that for? I mean, maybe if I was a forensics analyst or something like that, but I'm not. I'm a teacher. So how do I use that? Well, in teaching, the way I use that is if suddenly an eraser falls on the ground and another kid goes, ow, then I can look at where the eraser is, I can look at where the kid is, how they're acting, and I can know who threw the eraser. Even before they say it. And I'll be like, look at the kid, Anchan, why did you throw that? And then before the other kid would be like, Anchan did that, but before they could even say it, I'd be like, Anchan, don't throw things. And they're like, how did you know? You were turned around. It's like, I don't know. It's useful for me in that way, I guess. So what I want to know is, what are your things that you do in your head that you're not sure if other people do too? Try to think about that. Things that you do or think about that is kind of cool to you or interesting to you, but maybe other people can't. You might be surprised. See, just put it in the comment. I do this in my head. Don't you do the same thing, type of thing? Or don't you hate it when you're doing this and this thing happens? Or isn't it cool when you're thinking about such and such and then this happens? Think about those things and let me know. What is your superpower? All right, so that's what was in my beard today. Thanks. Sorry for the different format. Hope the sound isn't too bad. Bye now.